The snow fell softly on Madison Avenue that December evening, each flake catching the glow of the streetlights like tiny stars finding their way to Earth. Robert Chambers had just finished another long day at the investment firm, his briefcase heavy with quarterly reports he'd review later that night. At 58, these winter evenings felt longer than they used to, especially since his own children had grown and moved away. He was thinking about the empty apartment waiting for him, about heating up leftover soup, when he noticed her, a small figure sitting on the steps of the building next to his office. A little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, with blonde hair pulled back in pigtails. She wore a tan winter coat that had seen better days, and a faded red dress peeked out beneath it. Her small backpack sat beside her, and her boots scuffed and worn swung slightly as she sat there, looking up at the falling snow. Robert slowed his pace. The street was busy with people hurrying home, their breath visible in the cold air, but no one seemed to notice the child sitting alone. He glanced around, expecting to see a parent nearby, perhaps stepping out of a shop or hailing a taxi. But there was no one, just the little girl, watching the snow with wide, wondering eyes. He approached carefully, crouching down to her level as he'd learned to do when his own daughter was small, so many years ago. The knees of his dark suit pressed against the cold pavement, and snowflakes began to settle on his shoulders. "Hello there," he said gently. "Are you waiting for someone?" The little girl turned to look at him. Her face was round and sweet, with rosy cheeks from the cold, but there was something in her eyes, a sadness that seemed too old for such a young face. "My mommy," she said softly. "She told me to wait right here. She had to go do something important." Robert felt his chest tighten. He looked around again, more carefully this time. How long had this child been sitting here? Her coat had a dusting of snow on it, suggesting it had been a while. "I see," he said, keeping his voice calm and warm. "And what's your name?" "Sweetheart, Ma," she replied. Then, with the earnest seriousness that only children possess, she added, "Emma Rose Patterson." "I'm 5 3/4. "Well, Emma Rose Patterson, I'm Mr. Chambers, Robert, and I'm wondering, are you cold? Have you been waiting long?" Emma nodded, pulling her coat a little tighter. "A pretty long time, I think. But Mommy said to stay right here and not talk to strangers." She paused, considering. "But you seem nice. You have kind eyes, like my grandpa used to have." The comparison touched Robert more than he expected. He thought of his own grandfather, gone now for 20 years, and how the old man had always known just what to say to make a frightened child feel safe. "Your mommy was very smart to tell you that," Robert said, "and you were very good to remember." "But Emma, it's getting quite cold, and it's almost dark. Would it be all right if I sat here with you while you wait, just to keep you company?" Emma thought about this carefully, then nodded. Robert settled himself on the step beside her, setting his briefcase down. The cold from the stone seeped through his expensive suit, but he hardly noticed. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the snow. Robert's mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do. He could call the police, but he didn't want to frighten the child, and there was something in her trusting demeanor that made him want to handle this gently. "Ma," he said carefully, "can you tell me about your mommy?" "What's her name?" "Jennifer," Emma said. "Jennifer Patterson. She's really pretty and really smart, but sometimes she gets really sad. She cries when she thinks I'm sleeping." Robert's heart ached at these words. He'd seen enough in his life to recognize the signs of a family in trouble. "And where do you live, Emma?" "Is it close by?" The little girl pointed vaguely down the street. "That way, I think. In a building with a red door. We just moved there. Mommy said it was all we could afford right now." She swung her legs again. "Matter of fact, we used to live in a house with a yard, but Daddy left, and then everything changed." Robert closed his eyes briefly. How many times had he walked past people in need, too busy with his own concerns to notice? How many Emmas had he passed without seeing? "Ma," he said gently, "do you know your mommy's phone number?" The little girl's face fell. "She doesn't have a phone anymore," she said. "We had to cut back on extras." A phone, not an extra, a necessity. Robert felt a wave of sadness for this woman he'd never met, struggling so hard that she'd had to give up something so basic. "All right," he said, making a decision. "Ma, I have an idea. There's a coffee shop right there, just across the street. See it, with the warm lights? What if we go there, where it's warm, and we can watch for your mommy from the window? That way, you can still see the spot, but you won't be so cold." Emma looked uncertain. "But mommy said to stay right here." "I understand, and you've done exactly what she asked." "But look," Robert pointed to the large window of the coffee shop, which had a clear view of where they sat. "You can see this exact spot from inside. The moment your mommy comes, you'll see her, and we can run right out." "I promise." After a long moment of consideration, Emma nodded. Robert stood, offering his hand. Her small fingers were ice cold as they wrapped around his, and he felt a surge of protectiveness that reminded him of when his own children were small. Inside the coffee shop, warmth and the smell of brewing coffee enveloped them. Robert guided Emma to a table by the window, with a perfect view of where she'd been sitting. He ordered hot chocolate for her and coffee for himself, and added a grilled cheese sandwich and some cookies when he noticed how hungrily Emma eyed the pastry case. As Emma ate, slowly warming up, Robert tried to engage her in conversation, hoping to learn more that might help him find her mother. "So you just moved here?" he asked casually. Emma nodded, her mouth full of sandwich. She swallowed. "Mommy got a new job. She works at a cleaning company now. She cleans offices at night. She says it's good because then she can be with me during the day, and Mrs. Rodriguez from downstairs watches me at night for just a little bit of money." "I see. And tonight was different. Mommy had to go somewhere during the day. She said it was very important, that it might help us." "She looked really worried, and really tired." Robert sipped his coffee, thinking, a woman desperate enough to leave her child alone, even for a short time, must have been facing something urgent. An eviction, perhaps, a medical emergency. He'd spent decades in the world of finance, making decisions about numbers and percentages. This was different. This was a human life, a small child who trusted him with those wide, innocent eyes. "Ma," he said gently, "your mommy, did she say anything else about where she was going?" The little girl shook her head, then brightened. "Oh, but I remember the address of our apartment. Mommy made me memorize it in case of emergencies. It's 247 East 52nd Street, apartment 3B. Robert's eyebrows raised. "That's very impressive that you remembered all that. Mommy says I'm smart like my daddy was." Before he changed, there was a story there. Robert knew pain and disappointment and struggle. But right now, the priority was getting this child home safely. He pulled out his phone. "Ma, I'm going to make a phone call to some people who can help us find your mommy. Is that okay?" But before Emma could answer, she suddenly jumped up, pressing her face to the window. There she is. "That's my mommy." Robert looked out to see a young woman running down the street, her coat unbuttoned and flying behind her, her face a mask of panic as she looked around frantically. She was thin, too thin, with dark circles under her eyes visible even from this distance. Her blonde hair was pulled back, and even in her obvious distress, Robert could see the determination in her features. He and Emma rushed out of the coffee shop. The moment the woman Jennifer saw her daughter, she let out a sob of relief and dropped to her knees on the sidewalk. Opening her arms, Emma ran to her, and Jennifer wrapped her up tightly, rocking back and forth. "Oh baby, oh my baby, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry," Jennifer was saying, tears streaming down her face. "The appointment ran so late, and then the subway was delayed, and I ran all the way. Oh Emma, I was so scared." Robert stood a respectful distance away, giving them their moment. Other pedestrians flowed around them, some glancing over curiously, most just continuing on their way. Finally, Jennifer looked up and noticed him. Her eyes widened, and she stood, pulling Emma close to her side. There was fear there now, and suspicion. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "What happened?" "Ma, are you all right?" "I'm fine, Mommy," Emma said quickly. "This is Mr. Robert. He was nice to me. We had hot chocolate." Robert held up his hands in a peaceful gesture. "Mrs. Patterson, my name is Robert Chambers. I work in that building there. I found Emma sitting on the steps about 45 minutes ago. She was cold, so I stayed with her, and then we went to the coffee shop where she could watch for you while staying warm. That's all. I promise you, she's been perfectly safe." Jennifer's face cycled through several emotions of fear, relief, gratitude, shame. Finally, she began to cry again, covering her face with one hand while keeping the other on Emma's shoulder. "I'm sorry," she managed. "I'm so sorry. I had an appointment at the housing authority, and they said if I missed it, we'd lose our spot on the list. The wait is 2 years. I thought I'd be back in time, I thought. But everything went wrong, and She couldn't finish. Robert's heart broke for her. Here was a woman doing everything she could, and still finding herself in an impossible situation. "Mrs. Patterson," he said gently, "Jennifer, why don't we go back into the coffee shop, just for a few minutes? It's warm, and we can sit down." She looked hesitant, but Emma tugged on her hand. "Please, Mommy, I'm still cold." So the three of them went inside. Robert ordered Jennifer a coffee and more hot chocolate for Emma. They sat at the same table by the window, and slowly, the story came out. Jennifer had been a teacher. Her husband, Mark, had been an accountant. They'd had a good life in the suburbs and not wealthy, but comfortable. Then Mark had started drinking, the drinking had led to gambling, and within 2 years, everything had fallen apart. The divorce, the bankruptcy, the loss of their home. Jennifer had moved to the city, hoping for a fresh start, but teaching positions were scarce, and the ones available didn't pay enough to cover rent and childcare in New York. "I take any work I can get," she said quietly, staring into her coffee. "Right now, it's office cleaning at night. Emma's with a neighbor, a kind woman who only charges me $20 a night because she knows I'm struggling. During the day, I'm with Emma. I keep applying for teaching jobs, for anything better. I'm on waiting lists for affordable housing. I'm doing everything right, but it's like I'm treading water, and I'm so tired." Ma, sitting beside her mother, had gone quiet. She leaned against Jennifer's arm,